While praying and meditating, these thoughts began running in my head about Solomon and all his riches and glory. Jehu visited Solomon in a dream of his youth and promised him if he kept his ways, he would give him the blessings that he gave David, his father. But later in life, Solomon began having many wives that influenced him to serve other deities, and Jehu was displeased with Solomon. I think about all the contributions Solomon had in writing scriptures, like some of the Psalms, Proverbs, Song of Songs, the book of Ecclesiastes, and a great part of the scriptures. But yet he chose to serve other deities according to the scriptures. We must be careful not to fall into the trap of serving self and not serving Jehu, Alahim, fully. Jehu is a jealous Alahim and wishes for us to serve him only. I wasn't intending on being off the channel for this long, but all is good. I'm blessed and doing well. I've been on a journey seeking knowledge, which causes me to dilute my commitment to this channel. You read the scripture telling us that the word was written by men, inspired by Alahim. Solomon wrote a large part of the scriptures, so we must ask the question, don't we accept Solomon's writing? Because in the end, he turned from serving Alahim. Everyone who says Adonai, Adonai will inherit the kingdom of the Shamayim. The race is not given to the strong and mighty, but to him that endures Yahuwah ways to the end. Even the wolf knows the saying, beware of wolves in sheep clothing. From the beginning, from the garden, Shaitan has been an adversary, contradicting Alahim's word with deception. If Solomon in all his wisdom came into the trap of serving other deities, why would we be any different? I learned while taking this journey that a lot of the scriptures from the Old Testament were already being translated hundreds of years before Mashiach came into the world. They call these translations the translations of the Scriptural writings. The Hebrew writings were being translated from the Torah 300 years before the birth of Yahushua. Why was some aware of the coming of Mashiach and others had no clue of his coming? The scribes and the Pharisees had already adapted to false teachings and men's traditions. When people began accusing someone teaching falsehood because they don't believe in celebrating Christmas and birthdays gives a good impression about the way we serve. What caused Solomon to turn aside and serve other deities? Was it blindness or was it pride? Yahushua said, Solomon in all his riches, wisdom, glory, and esteem could not stand up to the lily in the field. It's not about what you know or what you think you know. It's all about serving him in the way that he wants you to serve. The wolves try to discredit people by gaslighting, using words of destruction, like he's stupid, or they don't know what they're talking about. And I can agree we're all guilty of doing it, but I believe it can be a tool Shaitan used to block truth. Manipulation is a very powerful tool that can be used to control the narrative. Mashal 21:5, plans of the hard worker leads only to plenty, but all rash haste only to poverty. In the game of football, you may have some sport analysis that will put a grade on a team for the upcoming season with a mark question. Are they contenders or are they pretenders? They may have this notion of uncertainty because, for example, they may have a team strong on offense with many weapons, but not enough on defense. Or maybe a team may have a great defense, but not sure what they will do on offense. There is really no way of knowing what a team will do until they get out on the field to prove it. I see the kingdom of the Shamayim in that way. We may have an idea of how we think it will appear, but we can't 100% know for sure until we get there. I'm sure it will be more imaginable than what we can possibly comprehend. 1 Corinthians 3, and I, brothers, was unable to speak to you as a ruach-like one, but as fleshly, as to babes in Mashiach. I fed you with milk and not with solid food, for until now you were not able to receive it, and even now you are still not able. For you are still fleshly, for since there is envy and strife and division among you, are you not fleshly and walking according to man? For when one says, I am of Paul, and another, I am of Apollos, are you not fleshly? What then is Apollos and what is Paul, but servants through whom you believed, as Adonai assigned to each? I planted, Apollos watered, but Yahuwah was giving growth. So neither he who plants nor he who mines is any at all, but Yahuwah who gives the increase. And he who plants and he who waters are one, and each one shall receive his own reward according to his own labor. For we are fellow workers of Yahuwah. You are the field of Yahuwah, the building of Yahuwah. According to the favors of Yahuwah which was given to me, as a wise Adonai builder, I have laid the foundations, and another builds on it, but each one shall look how he builds on it. For no one is able to lay any other foundations except that which is laid, which is Yahushua Mashiach. And if anyone builds on this foundations with gold, silver, precious stone, wood, hay, straw, each one work shall be revealed, for the Yom shall show it up, because it is revealed by fire, and the fire shall test the works of each one, what sort it is. If anyone's work remains, which he has built on, he shall receive a reward. If anyone's work is burned, he shall suffer loss, but he himself shall be delivered, but so as through fire. Do you not know that you are a Mishkan of Yahuwah, and that the Ruach of Yahuwah dwells in you? If anyone destroys the Mishkan of Yahuwah, Yahuwah shall destroy him, for the Mishkan of Yahuwah is Kadesh, which you are. Let no one deceive himself. If anyone among you seems to be wise in this age, let him become foolish, so that he might become wise. For the wisdom of this world is foolishness with Yahuwah, for it has been written, he catches the wise in their craftiness. And again, Yahuwah knows the thoughts of the wise, that they are worthless. So then, let no one boast in men, for all belongs to you. Whether Paul or Apollos or Kepha or the world, or life or death or the presence or the future, all belongs to you. And you belong to Mashiach, and Mashiach belongs to Yahuwah. We have urban warfare going on in the streets of America because of migrants that cross the border illegally. But we have some politicians that want to protect them from being sent back where they came from. Some of these migrants are terrorist groups, and they're not here because they want a piece of the American pie. You see on the news some of these migrants chanting, "Death to America." You gotta ask the question, what times are we living in, and what are we facing in the near future? History shows that the downfall of many countries were defeated from the inside out. We're at a stage in history where you don't find two armies fighting on the front line. The battle are being carried to the streets and resisting law and order. We have wicked people that are controlling these mobs by funding and giving their support. But again, I believe it's a part of the fourth beast system. You have countries that have weapons of mass destruction, and you have countries that seek to get weapons of mass destruction. They're like schoolyard bullies going around making threats to humanity by claiming to be warriors of the Most High, but showing acts of hatred. They're not showing an example of what Yahushua would do in serving Yahuwah Alahim, and how people should come to the Father. Some of these countries pledge to use these weapons if they ever get access to them. I've been noticing for several years that all media channels have different stories about the news. You have channels like CNN, ABC, NBC that gives a version of the news they want you to hear, and other news channels like Fox and others that have a total different version of the same story. I go into some channels that are total anti-person in charge to another channel giving a total different outlet, meaning you have the media controlling the minds of people. So you got to come to the reality that you're being lied to. The same way with religions of today, we have all these different versions of beliefs out there. Can we honestly say that Yahuwah have us this close, but yet still so far apart? Sometimes the principalities can block the path of the journey you've been on. So when one door is closed because of you or because of someone else's action, it doesn't mean that your journey has ended. It just means that Yahuwah is opening another door for you to walk through. Yahuwah has shown me that you don't need an education in order to succeed in life, but sometimes he'll take you on that journey anyway. Sometimes Yahuwah will close one door in order for another door to be opened. It should never be about seeking fame and riches, but about serving Yahuwah's kingdom first, and then all things will be added to you. All things from Yahuwah will be added to you. 2 Alahim 9. And Elijah the prophet called one of the sons of the prophets, and said to him, Gird your loins and take this flask of oil in your hand, and go to Ramoth Gilead. And you shall go there and look for Jehu, son of Jehoshaphat, son of Nimshi, and go and make him rise up from among his brothers, and take him into an inner room, and take the flask of oil, and pour it on his head, and say, Thus say Yahuwah, I have anointed you king over Yeshurun. Then you shall open the door and flee, and do not wait. So the young man, the prophet, went to Ramoth Gilead. And he came and saw the commanders of the army sitting, and he said, I have a message for you, O commander. And Jehu said, For which one of us? And he said, For you, commander. And he rose and went into the house, and he poured the oil on his head, and said to him, Thus say Yahuwah, Alahim of Yeshurun, I have anointed you king over the people of Yahuwah, over Yeshurun. And you shall smite the house of Achab your Adonai, and shall avenge the blood of my servants the prophet, and the blood of all the servants of Yahuwah at the hand of Isabel. And all the house of Achab shall perish, and I shall cut off from Achab all the males in Yeshurun, both those shut up and those left at large. And I shall give up the house of Achab like the house of Jeroboam son of Nebat, and like the house of Baasha son of Achiah. And the dogs are going to eat Isabel in the portions of Jezreel, with none to bury her. Then he opened the door and fled. And Jehu came out to the servants of his Adonai, and one said to him, Is there peace? Why did this madman come to you? And he said to them, You know the man and his talk. And they said, They lie, reveal it to us now. So he said, Thus and thus he spoke to me, saying, Thus said Yahuwah, I have anointed you king over Yeshurun. And they heard, and each one of them took his garment and put it under him on top of the steps. And they blew the ram's horn, saying, Jehu reigns. Thus Jehu, son of Jehoshaphat, son of Nimshi, conspired against Joram. Now Joram had been guarding Ramoth Gilead, he and all Yeshurun, against Hazael, king of Aram. But King Jehoram had returned to Yisrael to recover from his wound with which the Arameans had smitten when he fought with Hazael, king of Aram. Jehu now said, If this is your desire, let no one leave or escape from the city to go and make it known in Yisrael. And Jehu rode in a chariot and went to Yisrael, for Joram was laid up there, and Achaziah, king of Yehuda, had come down to see Joram. And a watchman stood on the tower of Yisrael, and he saw the company of Jehu as he came. And he said, I see a company of men. And Jehoram said, Get a horseman and send them to meet them, and let them say, Is there peace? And the horseman went out to meet him and said, Thus say the king, Is there peace? And Jehu said, What have you to do with peace? Turn around and follow me. And the watchman spoke, saying, The message went out to them, but is not coming back. Then he sent out a second horseman who came to them and said, Thus said the king, Is there peace? And Jehu answered, What have you to do with peace? Turn around and follow me. And the watchman spoke, saying, He went up to them and is not coming back, and the driving is like the driving of Jehu, son of Nimshi, but he drives madly. Then Jehoram said, Hitch up, and his chariot was hitched up, and Jehoram, king of Yeshurun, and Achaziah, king of Yehuda, went out, each in his chariot, and they went out to meet Jehu, and met him in the portions of Naboth the Yeshurunite. And it came to be when Jehoram saw Jehu that he said, Is there peace, Jehu? But he answered, What peace, as long as the whoring of your mother Isabel and her witchcraft are so many? Thereupon Jehoram turned his hand around and fled, and said to Achaziah, Treasury, O Achaziah. And Jehu drew his bow and shot Jehoram between his arms, and the arrow came out at his heart, and he sank down into his chariot. And Jehu said to Bigar, his officer, Take him up and throw him into the portion of the field of Naboth the Yeshurunite. Remember how you and I were riding together behind Achab his father, and Jehu lifted up his pronouncement against him. Have I not seen the blood of Naboth and the blood of his sons last Layla, says Jehu, and I shall repay you in this portion, says Jehu. And now take up, throw him on the portions according to the word of Jehu. And Achaziah, king of Yehuda, saw this and fled up the way to Beit Haggan. And Jehu pursued him and said, Smite him too, in the chariot, at the accents of Gur. which is by Yibla, and he fled to Magdal and died there. Then his servants conveyed him in the chariot to Jerusalem and buried him in the tomb with his fathers in the city of David. And in the 11th year of Jeroboam, son of Achab, Achazah began to reign over Yehuda. And Jehu came to Uriel, and Isabel heard of it, and she put paint on her eyes and adorned her head and looked through a window. And as Jehu came to the gate, she said, Is it peace, Zimri, slayer of your Adonai? He lifted up his face to the window and said, Who is with me? Who? And 2 or 3 eunuchs looked down to him. And he said, Throw her down. And they threw her down, and some of the blood splattered on the walls and on the horses, and he trampled her underfoot. And he went in, and he ate, and he drank, and he said, Go now, see to the cursed one, and bury her, for she was a king's daughter. So they went to bury her, but all they found of hers was her skull, and the feet, and the palms of her hands. And they came back and informed him, and he said, This is the word of Yahuwah, which he spoke by his servant Elijah the Tishbite, saying, In the portion of Yeshureel, dogs are going to eat the flesh of Isabel. And the course of Isabel shall be as the doing of the service of the field in the portions of Yeshureel, so that they do not say, This is Isabel. The devil doesn't pass out light sentencing. He wants to convict you for life under his spell. So if you are a person that runs off emotion, Shaitan knows how to use that against you. You may know in your heart that something seems out of place, that it doesn't seem right, but Shaitan will find a way to assure you that it is right. That's why you must stand on the word alone and not on some feelings that you may have indulged or some experiences. Shaitan has some tricks that he knows how to use to keep you under his spell. Remember how the devil works. A lot of times he will lead you down a road of destruction without you being aware of it. Sometimes common sense is the best teacher. You may say, I trust the truth and believe in the Basara, but you're not totally following the Basara. We of little faith trust and believe the word of Yahuwah, and he will give you rest. I was listening to this speaker who was telling the story about this president that once asked someone, if a dog has 4 legs and you count the tail as a leg, how many legs does it have? And they responded 5, and he said, no, wrong answer. There is only 4 legs, because by calling a tail a leg doesn't make it a leg. You can't change something to something else just by calling it something else. A leg can only be a leg, and a tail can only be a tail. I can tell the president was grieving as he addressed his brief conference, because I believe that he doesn't want to take life. But there are leaders in this world that won't blink an eye when it comes down to destroying life. It's like they have demons that cause them to think that it's okay to kill. We have people in this world that think it's okay to allow regimes to have nuclear weapons when they know without a doubt that they would use them on people. Like the scripture says, it's appointed that man wants to die, but after comes judgment. Shaitan asked Eve the question, did Alahim say that you could not eat of the trees? And Eve said, no, we can eat of the trees except the tree of knowledge between good and evil. Then Shaitan began his plot to deceive mankind. A thought occurred to me. If the scriptures was writing for us to believe that the Jews were no longer Alahim's children, and the only way to salvation is through the Gentiles, then why was the Ruach HaKodesh poured out on Pentecost, which is a Jewish tradition? The truth is, Yeshua was already under Roman's dictatorship for many years. The Jewish leaders didn't have the authority to have Yahushua murdered, so they manipulated the Romans to have him killed. They were already under Romans' rulership during the time of Yahushua's ministry. The Roman Empire is under the 4th beast system. All Yahuwah's disciples use references from the Torah. For example, we read in Yashayahu that the Ethiopian was delivered by Philip reading scriptures from Yashayahu 53. It says that Philip read Yashayahu to the eunuch, he believed and returned back to Africa, spreading the good news. So even after Yahushua's ascension up into the Shamayims, people still were delivered by scriptures read from the Torah. So I stand on the understanding that all scriptures are from Alahim, and that would include the Torah, the Gospels, the Acts, the letters, and the Revelations. All scriptures are inspired from Alahim. Thanks for watching and thanks for sharing. If Jehu is willing, I'll see you on the next video. So until then, stay blessed, be blessed, and continue to be blessed. Hallelujah. Praise Yahuwah. As I continue my journey for knowledge and understanding, I look forward to the next video.